been taken. We need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Bart, seconded by Dave to approve the agenda. Any questions at all? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Minutes of the previous meetings.
I read a motion to accept them as printed. Second.
Motion by Dave, second by Dick to approve the minutes of the previous meetings. Any discussion at all? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public appearances. Would either of you want to speak right now?
Are we doing it now or are we doing it later? I thought we'd have it
My
later.
action items are later.
Okay, we will wait. All right. Monthly business, approve the vouchers and the checks. Motion by Bart to approve the vouchers and the checks. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Anybody have any questions on the vouchers or the checks? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Prior month income statement. I wouldn't do that.
One of the reasons that the profits aren't as high as normal are the proceeds, net proceeds. Because the interest has not been, if you look under the revenues and the interest income is zeros, those have not been being recorded. That's something that City Hall does. And I'm not sure why the entries haven't been made. So otherwise there would be more revenues up there.
Okay. Anybody have any questions at all on that? Consumption and loss.
That one's private.
We improved from last month. Sewage is down from last month. Water pumping is up. Next day the same.
Anything under 3%, I'm happy.
All right, anybody have any questions on that at all? If not, review totals of delinquent members. Went up a little, but
6 weeks? Ish.
Yep. Pam commented today that she's looking forward to it.
she's such a happy person.
She is.
Anybody have any comments on that at all? If not, reports of officials, utility accountant.
I've been just getting ready for the audit. Ours is next Wednesday. They're gonna upload our software on Monday, so, we're working on closing out the projects from the year, 2024, and, tracking all the assets and depreciation and whatever, so it's been busy. So of course, nothing balances, so either that or else, our inventory software that we're not gonna be using anymore doesn't, it's not been recording things properly in the last couple months, so we printed off our physical inventory reports, and the guys are physical inventory, and there's some discrepancies, and I don't know if it's the software didn't, log it in, or I'm not sure, but, so we've been having to do a couple of extra steps to everything this month.
Keep in mind that the open point that is getting implemented will solve.
Yes, and it'll solve the job costing and whatever too, so. So we're looking forward to getting that implemented.
Okay. Is that all? Is your phone system's working better?
No, my phone did not work as much of the day today. In fact, I had emailed Javis twice, and then the third time they said, just restart your phone. I told them I already did that, so they had to do the reset with the factory settings and whatever. It only took about 5 minutes, but I tried calling Nick on his phone here, I tried calling Alex on his cell phone, I tried calling Alex in his office. And it
It was
just
awful
does
quiet
nothing.
today.
Yeah, just does nothing.
I know Pam's been transferring needs my cell phone, and it seems to be working, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to.
Cause you don't know who it is.
Because I don't know who it is.
You
I'm like,
think it's
hello,
the
thinking
office.
it's them, and it's here, it's a customer. I'm like, oh, okay. This means to answer my phone every time now.
I think there's a way that she can, when she transfers, she can talk to you first and then finish the transfer call, so she can let you know who it is. I can ask her if she can do that.
So with all these weeks of, or months of difficulties, are they charging us less because it's not working right?
I don't get the bill, City Hall gets the bill for the phone system.
You can ask City Hall that.
Should we get a break?
Maybe we should get a new supplier.
That's
Well, and
that's something to look into, I think.
Javis keeps saying that it's the internet, because we don't have strong internet, but why is it just my phone was out today and everybody else's went? If it was the internet, you would think it'd be straight across the board, that we'd all be having problems.
Does your internet seem slow?
Ours was just right off the spectrum here.
I don't
You're
know.
not on our fiber.
No, I don't.
No, but because we're
I
trying to
can't
call
remember
you and you
how it
have
works.
bad
It's Charter
fiber.
fiber here,
I
and then
think
it's
it's one of the
linked
reasons.
from
Right, ours is through that.
to public safety to your or your sample station, and then to you.
This is citywide, probably.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
either
Megan's
fix
been
it
having
or
a
else
lot of
we'll
problems
find
with
somebody
hers,
else.
Gotta be somebody that can, well, at least bid against them.
Who did we have before? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was,
Or were we dealing with, what'd you call it for?
we had
our
Interquest for a while, and then we had,
But who was our, Interquest wasn't supplying us with the service.
you're talking the internet service?
Yeah,
It was AT&T
okay.
before. And when Charter put in their, new fiber, high speed, I don't know what they call it, something special, but that's when we transferred to Charter. But we had someone between Interquest and Jobs.
That's what I'm trying to remember who it was.
I could see the guy was smoked all the time, he came and smoked.
Oh, he was the guy that Jason Buskey pushed on us that time. He was a one-man show.
Yeah, he had like a blue.
Yeah,
beaten up
one-man
Ford
show, and
Ranger,
then
he'd roll it.
Our biggest concern was support there too, you know.
So I guess it's something we need to keep abreast of, see what's going on. Alrighty. Anybody has any questions of Lori? If not, Nick?
You guys just noticed the Eddie Joss poles have been removed down to above the breakers like requested. I don't know if we should keep those there, cause out of all of them, there's maybe 2 that would be okay to keep energized. Cause all that wire insulation's coming off and you can see that they've arced inside there a few times, so I don't know what the city's direction wants to be. I know we wanted to keep it there in place. If we were to do anything future, I would highly recommend that it all get replaced anyways.
Is it UF or?
No,
Direct barrel.
direct burial. Aluminum. So it's like all, where it comes out of the pipe, it's all weather checked and coming off right at the fittings and the components on the box themselves.
Are we going back to that cabinet, or are we going right to the transformer on those?
It goes to that cabinet.
So we can isolate it.
Yeah, that's what I have in place right now. I ended up just
Yeah.
pulling the leads out and keeping energized up to the breaker, but. So it's up to you guys. I mean, to me, they're eyesores, but I don't, city's decision what they wanna do.
At the very most, if they go back to having a festival in the park, they might be utilized then, but otherwise, yeah.
We got plenty of power by the pavilions and now and.
But they still used them along on those remote areas, you know, whatever, but, yeah, I agree with you, it's, probably gonna be used so randomly, it's probably not even worth having anymore,
So I guess I'll leave that up to.
but,
public
yeah,
works
send it
committee
back
here.
to Public Works or whatever, and we'll take it from there, I guess.
The boring contract that we voted on, subject to the attorneys reviewed it, and they agreed with the terms that were in place, so we did sign that contract with the JNR. The task order was submitted to them for the ATC job, and that was just submitted this week, so hoping to hear back from them tail end of the week and get a schedule going, for that job. That's gonna go right into the ATC project update. Materials have arrived, minus our most crucial pieces of equipment, which happen to be switch gears, which is also the switch gears that I need for the downtown project that we completed all the way up to just the switch gears for Fair Street here. I just got news once I saw that Keenest was coming in end of March here, because I'm waiting on 2 switch gears for that. They gave me some terrible news that they were supposed to be here this month. They got pushed back to June and now have just been pushed back to September, which greatly affects me and the ATC job. I do have a meeting with ATC Wednesday. I called 6 other utilities today to see if anybody has switch gears that they'd be willing to sell us, and then we replace them with ours that we received in September, and no one wants to give them up. I don't blame them. So I'm in a hard pinch right now. This would be well over a year lead time on the switch gears now, probably 3 months more, over a year now. About 15 months. So I don't know what to do right now. Like I said, I just found out today, so trying to figure something out. But the rest of the materials are here. We got wire, we got pipe, we got all the other components for the stuff that's staying on the poles and wiring up the switch gears. Everything's here, except those. We did send an invoice to ATC for $248,536, something like that. I got an email today that they will be paying that this week. I don't know if you saw me forward that to you, Lori.
I didn't notice it.
So yeah,
Are we covering your time on this, Nick?
it's ATC's covering.
That's what I mean,
Yep.
are we covering
Yep.
your hours that you're sticking in this?
Yeah, so the way, what typically would happen with a job like this is, upon final completion is when we would invoice them. But I told them, with set aside utility like this, we would not, I'm not willing to do that, waiting and affecting our budget throughout the year. We'd be sending invoices throughout the year, and they agreed to those, so. So, that first one was just materials, and then, as JNR does their work, I'll send out JNRs, and then we will, when we finalize is when we'll bill them our labor and everything. I'll square up with that, so. Dylan attended his third week at Green Bay for his apprenticeship. Did receive their midterm scores. Both Nick and Dylan got straight A's going so far for the last year and a half now, so they're doing good with that. We've continued to do tree trimming. We did pretty extensive tree trimming by Sensient's primary metering pole, and we do have a few more limbs to take off of one tree that's in conflict with the metering pole itself. Continuing to work on mapping with OpenPoint. This is becoming quite labor intensive, especially with feet on the ground. Going around and collecting all of our assembly data. They're wanting, date of installations of cable that I have no idea, I don't have any records of, so I may be talking to Merlin Lidkey and Ed and maybe you to see, even if it's a 10-year timeline of when cable might have been installed, at least we can get something in our mapping to note that. We attended Waupun Safety School. We got to do some hands-on training with Randy Larson's our safety instructor. He's got a new hands-on trailer that he swaps every year. 1 year it's overhead, the other year it's underground. This year's overhead, we're reviewing capacitor banks, voltage regulators, transformer testing, transformer banking. That went well. With OpenPoint, it's become aware to us that they're looking for phasing identification on our single-phase circuits. So our whole system is in phase. We just can't go to a specific house and say that this is our A phase out of our substation. So WPPI does have a phasing identifier. It's actually a pretty nifty little tool that you go into the substation, any of the 3 substations, and you can hold it up to a wire and you can hit set 0. You need to know what your A phase is, and I have the transmission phasing coming into our substation. Set your A phase to 0, and then once it's programmed, the A phase, you pull it up to either the B or C, and it tells you what it is. You don't have to even make contact with it. You just point at it, and it tells you what phase it is. It's pretty cool. The only problem is with our 4 kV system, it doesn't have enough penetration or push to get outside the insulation. So we're finding that in transformers and junction boxes, we're having to pull an insulating cap to get direct sight to the bushing to see that phase. So it would have been a lot quicker if we were already 8 kV, but it works, and we'll get it identified for that. We tested our rubber gloves, all of our rubber goods, and our sticks and grounds. We did have a couple failures, and those failures were replaced with the same unit if it was 1 glove or 1 blanket. I think we had 2 gloves fail, and for those that don't know, every 6 months you send your gloves and get tested. So whatever failed was replaced. I think it was 2 gloves, 1 sleeve, 1 blanket, and we had 1 ground fail. Bucket truck. As you guys know, in the last meeting, we discussed that every year our trucks go through testing, DOT testing, bucket liner, insulation testing, filters, hydraulic, the whole 9 yards. Both trucks had some minor things, but everything came back and was mostly under warranty. The bucket truck had some minor things, and they wanted to do it in-house since it was in warranty, so we sent it there. They sent it back, and go figure, hydraulic leak. So they took it there. We didn't have it for 2 weeks. They brought it back, and they didn't have the boom fully retracted and wasn't locked in. So it bounced all the way from Appleton to Juneau. They replaced the bucket itself. They redid the whole bed liner because it scuffed up all the bed liner in the back. They replaced the booms. I made them retest and load test the boom ratings, and made them run through the whole inspection again. And they replaced everything that was damaged. And that event of things. So we were missing the bucket truck for about three weeks this past month. We've been running it through the works since we've had it back, just to make sure that we have no problems, finding any reason to take it out, just to move the turd around and see if there's any more leaks or. So that was, didn't have a good feeling in my.
You can't feel that when you're driving that down the road if
And
that's not
the worst
set?
thing about it is they had training in Madison, so they had a car following them with two other techs in the car, following the guy driving the bucket truck, and they didn't notice that it wasn't down and stowed all the way. And we used to have to strap down the old boom, now it's got an auto latch. When you lower it down, it sits in it's got a little lever that goes down and the piston closes and the latch closes up on the boom. And they didn't have the boom retracted all the way, so it wouldn't sit all the way down on that lever to auto latch it. So I noticed it right away when it came back, and I'm like, well, you might as well take it back, because I don't want it back, you know. And I say,
For $250,000, they don't put an idiot light on the dash to tell you that the
Right.
boom is not.
they got an idiot light
that's
for if you
saddled
don't
and-
have a remote in there, but yeah, but not when the boom's all the way down.
Jesus.
I don't know, whenever I use one of those, I made sure that thing was.
Oh, right.
Before I drove away.
Yep. So,
Jesus.
we installed a secondary main behind the post office in the backyard. Lot lines there. That's in preparation for when these two switch gears show up and we can energize it. Everything is done except the switch gears to energize it all. The wires in, terminations are made, except for the 500 into the switch gears. But all the single phase in the backyards is all done. We had a street light fault on Victory Street. That was faulted out just outside the handhole. Pretty easy find. And we had a car struck some guy wires on a pole just outside the industrial substation. It was a hit and run. We noticed, actually DPW noticed some plastic laying in the ditch, and they asked us to go over and look at it. There was no real major damage to it other than the plastic guy guards. We did replace those, but we did give Dave a full cost replacement if we did notice something in a few weeks here, if something changes on this. But we did inspect it and everything did look good. Well, 3 security lighting, did you notice it? It was done?
No.
Okay. We did, well, 3 has a little security light that shines on their building. That when we did the voltage conversion for the transformer, I don't think it's ever worked since then. So I don't know if they were using that. That light fixture was burnt up, so we did replace that, and it's all working now. And then substation, this is the last thing on the list. I did submit a load interconnection request form to ATC. The reason I submitted this form was not only to prepare us for the need of a voltage conversion in the future for system-wide, but also we own the transmission bus work inside industrial substation. The reason Juneau owns the bus work, the transmission bus work inside the industrial substation is when Juneau owned the 69 kV loop and was sold to ATC, the bus work inside our industrial sub was not to ATC standards, and they didn't take over ownership of that because of that. But because of that, we were the tie point for our loop feed, meaning we were the switch inside our substation. So whenever ATC performs work on the transmission line to the west, we have to take a substation outage at industrial. So the main reason for this load interconnection request form was to get them to take over ownership of that transmission bus work in our sub, and to also put a switch outside the industrial sub so that we don't have to take an outage when they do work on the Y134 line. This also include that they would update, they're gonna put in a recloser inside our substation as a protection point between us and Beaver Dam. So there's a lot of pros to it. One, it sets us up for voltage conversion. Two, they take over ownership. Three, we have more dependability and reliability for transmission. They have agreed to our terms, and we did sign a execution or a construction agreement execution form, which is the beginning stages of them doing a study, telling us what the timeline's gonna look like for them to do this replacement. As far as what we will have to do for part of this job is, at a minimum up front, is we'll have to extend our substation fence to the west 20 feet, which is on utility property yet. What that does is it gives us room for the new bus work that ATC will be putting in. And I do have a bunch of documents if you guys wanna look at it after the meeting, just to show you the scope of the work and the map of the final project when it's completed. So we can look at those afterwards, but there's nothing pressing now. Anything that was gonna happen is gonna be at earliest 2026, which then we'll budget for the fence extension, and if there's any other minor equipment that we would have to get ready for that. So outside of that, that's about that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Nick? If not, moving on. Alex?
So, first item to talk about is, review, discuss, and possibly approve the amendment to the wastewater treatment plant, change order.
It's my fault, guys.
Guess we should have had you had paperwork that night so we could sign it.
I guess I
Then
shouldn't
you'd
have
be
turned
on,
my,
then you would be on the hook.
if I didn't turn the computer back on and we just went with Sherry's number, we would have been fine. That was just an accountant thing that I messed up inside the presentation, adjusting numbers and moving items, so my apologies for that, guys.
And we're still working with Staub to confirm the time extension. Cause they're gonna, some of those items are gonna take a little extra time, so they're working on getting their numbers over to us.
There will actually be almost a $2,000 credit based on some, not negotiations, but accepting other products that would not delay the project as much as they were expecting it to. So that'll show up on the last change order, yeah. For
Yeah.
the 4-inch scum valves, yeah.
Okay.
So what is the number?
123.
591.
591. I should have had it.
Alright.
$123,591.
Make it, amend the price from what it was before.
Yeah, what did we say
You
last
said it was
time?
108.
108.
260. 108, 260, right?
261, I think.
261.
From 108 to whatever that number was to the new number.
Correct. That was all the items on that list.
Yeah.
So,
So the additional charge was $15,327.
right, that was the cost of
The flashing.
the flashing. Yeah.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Dave to approve changing the amount on change order number 6 to show the 123, 260.
591.
591, excuse me. I'll be next in trouble.
No math control.
All right. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you, gentlemen. Apologize for that mistake again.
Thank you for calling us, Johnny.
Too many push-ups.
So we're gonna move a little bit out of order. but I have a proposal from CBS Squared to consult towards for a water system. And the plan behind that was for them to work with us to help our chlorine issues. That being said, the proposal that we had put together, it was for adding phosphates to the water system. The idea for that is that phosphates will help the chlorine carry throughout the system better and also helps clean the system. That being said, I had some correspondence with Brad Stachinsky, who you all met last year from MSA. He actually contacted me just to talk about and update the directional flushing plan that they provided the first time. So we got talking about, okay, you know, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Was this a reasonable next step? What would you pursue to try and help our chlorine issues? So it was a little bit last minute that I brought him into the loop. So basically, I want to kind of push this item so that we allow more time to gather some more data through MSA, through Brad, to see what they would propose as the next reasonable step. I don't wanna go spending money in the wrong direction if I have opposing viewpoints as to what will be the true solution to the issue at hand, or a better solution to the issues at hand, so. We're working on it. Obviously, everybody's familiar here that we've gotten some criticism lately. So.
That's good. That's good.
No. Surprised nobody came.
On Facebook.
Yeah. So, we're seeking out some professional opinions, and we're gonna do a little more digging and research. The biggest thing Brad wanted to verify is that there's not some anomaly in our source water or something in the filter itself. So we're gonna try to come up with some small scale testing and tests to figure out if there's something we should change within the well house, or if he still thinks that it's coming from the distribution system, from the pipes. So, and if it is coming from the pipes, we can still circle back to the proposal I have from CBS Squared to go with that. CBS Squared, just as a background, they were the firm we hired for our corrosion control studies, so they do have some background on how our system works and the problems we faced, so.
So they want to add more chemicals to eliminate the chlorine smell,
It
taste, or whatever?
more or less, the idea is that these phosphates help coat the insides of the pipes so that everything in the water travels further without reacting along the way or getting diluted or having issues that way.
Are we meeting our chlorine requirements by the DNR at the end of the lines, which was the original problem, correct? So are we overshooting those?
Well, the hope is that and that was the theory with that firm, was that if we coat the insides of the pipes with these phosphates, we could potentially see the residuals go further while adding less. So it would allow us within the well houses to turn things down.
Do we still have to add as much as we're adding to meet the DNR requirements at this time? Because, I'm at the end of the line, I think, down by me,
Right.
and it's pretty strong.
I believe
I mean,
it.
doesn't bother me, but.
Right, well.
But I can understand why people are talking about it.
Right. So, and it's not always a direct science, because the chemistry,
Less is more sometimes.
it works differently than you expect, in that, so when, in the middle of December, we actually turned the chlorine down from where we were. And it was the middle of January is when things turned over, we started getting all these complaints. So, it doesn't always work the way you think it would, is what I'm just gonna say. It's the way it reacts in your system. And it's what you're smelling isn't necessarily the chlorine
It's not
itself.
more, yeah, it's not necessarily more chlorine,
It's,
just, so there's a point called breakthrough chlorination, where if you're not dosing enough, it becomes odorous and it gets released, out
See-
in the distribution system in the homes. So it's counterintuitive. So I think when you had all those complaints back in, must've been fall of 2023, there was a lot of
Somewhere in
complaints, I
there,
think that's
yeah.
when we met with you.
yeah,
We actually recommended you start bumping it up, you weren't
Mhm.
feeding enough, and then
Right.
you bumped it up and complaints went down a little bit, or less?
well,
They've been pretty consistent all the way
they
through.
they go in waves.
Yeah, they go, as soon as somebody posts
As soon as
something,
somebody sparks it up,
they,
it goes.
you know, everybody just jumps on, like, the social media phenomenon. I can't
Gotcha.
spawn.
Have you noticed a change being at the end of the line with, does it consistently smell like it, or
Yes.
has there been times where it was less?
No,
No.
it's generally gotten more,
Mhm.
and it's really noticeable now. But my dog still drinks the water, so.
Oh,
I've had that complaint also, and it's not from me, I can't smell. But my wife has been telling me that she notices it right away, you know.
Have you checked the residuals at these, what are they,
So, in the, like, in the loops, we're at around 0.8 to 1. So, but then you get into dead ends where considerably less.
Do you guys consider looping in the dead ends? Is
Do
that-
we can.
Where we can, yeah.
No, Rich, if you're on a dead end line there. That one doesn't have a loop, so, you know, you might oversit them.
do you have a flushing protocol for those dead ends?
My shop's on a dead end, and I was down there using water today, and it's, ooh, she's right. So could you flush the dead ends? Let's say, I don't know how many dead ends you got, let's say you got 5 dead ends, you do them every month, and you do your
More often.
testing off of that water? Just the
Yeah.
dead ends?
Yeah, and it's.
And then maybe you'd be able to put less of everything in, because it's
Yeah.
out there?
There's a lot of utilities that have to do that, just to get it
Out there.
You know, some places will do it monthly, some places less often, quarterly, some places do it twice a month. I've heard different stories on it everywhere. And the more places, people you talk to, there's no one answer to say dose this much and it'll be great. It's everything's case by case and system by system.
So it's trial and error.
Quite literally, yeah.
So after last summer, June-ish, May or June-ish, you guys did the flushing, the unidirectional flushing, how did complaints go then, or you think just no one was paying attention and?
Nobody piped up.
Stay consistent, according to that survey that they did on them, didn't it?
You do the
Yeah.
survey after that, or?
I thought we did another
No, we did
survey.
it
I thought, when was the survey?
I thought it was fall of the year before
I-
last, or spring.
I wanna say
There was a follow-up one, wasn't there?
no, it was only been one, but it was
Maybe it was 20,
advertised a few
so.
times.
What's the DNR range for the residual? Does it vary based on where you're at in the system?
Measurables if we're, so.
Is John Nails from County Facilities talking to you?
No.
He actually showed me pictures of impellers from their pumps within the jail and the justice. They're eating apart. They called people in. I asked him to forward this stuff, but I thought he was gonna send it to you.
I haven't heard of it.
I met with him
These are-
Wednesday or Thursday morning in regards to Gathering Plaza. And he said, well, I got you here. He pulls out his phone, and I says, that's from our chlorine? And he said, well, a lot of this stuff is brass. And he says, I've had people come in who are in the water, commercial water advisors or whatever, and they said, and the chlorine content is, this is at the jail.
What are the pumps for?
Just to circulate the water throughout the building. I don't know if they're booster pumps or what they are.
Like hot water boiler pumps?
No, this is, I thought for potable water.
Circulating pumps on like water heater?
And they seem to have, they had seemed to take chlorine, and he quoted, I says, is that high? I don't know how many parts per million you're supposed to have within the building, so that was all Greek to me.
Right.
And he says, I don't know. He says, but he says, this definitely is caused by extreme chlorine. And I says, oh, well, I says, we were told that your sanitary pipes were from the gases that came from our mainline sewers too, and you were proved wrong on that. So I kind of put him in his place on that, but I didn't score any points, of course. So I says, but you definitely should reach out to our wastewater superintendent to share this with it, because he had colored pictures that if you saw that stuff, you'd swear you were running acid, through the system.
They have a well.
That's my knowledge.
They tested their own water though?
They tested and knew how many parts per million they had there, and at the north end of the building, right next to the water, or north end of town, they've got another facility, the health facilities up there. And they knew how many parts per million. That was very high up there as well. Being right next to the water tower, of course, that would make sense. The jail and the justice facility are right in the core of town here, about as central as it can be. But that's pulling from a well that's only a block away too, or whatever, so, it's funny, like, I never noticed this a year ago until I was going door to door for re-election and what have you, and then, they jumped me, well, I knew the problem was there, but I even had a neighbor right across the street from me. I didn't notice it in our water at all. That day when I met with her, actually, I said, can I take a glass of water from you? I drank it and smelled it, and I could notice it was there.
You could.
And her tap off the main is probably 60 feet from my tap off the main, except we're on opposite sides of the street. And I didn't notice it at our house until we started this rehab system, or this, tried to improve the system after, doing whatever flushing or scouring or whatever we were trying to do. Now I notice it on a regular basis inside our house, and all of a sudden my wife doesn't even want to drink it anymore or feed it to the dog or whatever. So, we're drinking Burnett water now, which I don't know if it's ever been tested or not up there, but it does taste better than ours. And I've always been a big promoter of rural water in town because I grew up here and I always thought it was excellent and whatever. But it seems like I blame it on the DNR. I said, that's another DNR and mandate they threw upon us that said it was all wrong and what have you.
Smart.
So, but we're the ones that have to fix the problem, and they never have any funds to help us fix the problem. But yeah, I notice it now at my shop more in the morning, flushing the toilet, you can actually smell it coming up through the toilet bowl. I don't have any softeners in line there or anything. I have water softener in my house. Identical to the neighbor across the street, because I put that one in for him too. So, they're identical systems, but how 60 feet across the street or 60 feet downstream can make a difference. Like, just blows my mind,
So one thing about the phosphates is it is the flip side of it is because it coats everything inside the pipes, one of its main purposes is for corrosion inhibiting. So that's also a side effect, is that like if we still had lead and everything else, it would help lower your lead results. Keeps things from wearing out due to corrosion in the water system. So that's the purpose of it.
We never allowed we never allowed PVC water mains in our town. We always stuck to the cast. And that's what we made, that was our standard until we were kinda challenged that, hey, that's kinda horse and buggy thinking or whatever, so only the last few street projects are PVC water main, so, and those are the ones that are complaining the most. The ones down on East Oak Street that are loop fed, or, there's not an issue there or anything like that, but those are the ones that are complaining the most, that are on the newest water mains that we have in town. I have a little bit of knowledge of this stuff, so, I can kind of relate, but it's just befuddling. And then Alex had shared with me after the night when the people were out at the treatment plant, the issue about having an oversized water tower.
Well, it seems like we're hanging on to water too long, basically. Like you thought the water tower had the highest chlorine concentration, and it's the opposite of that.
Yeah. But yet their readings were higher up there, next to the water tower, than what they were downtown here.
Do you have a GIS system for your water? Are you keeping like a map of what the residuals are? Just to see if there's any.
We're working on trending all this.
It'd be nice to get the jail numbers too and put those on there just to see if you recognize anything. How deep are your wells? How many wells do you have?
Almost 7 feet.
3 of them, they're all same aquifer? Do you have to test your raw source water every so often also, right? I don't know, I don't do water.
Yeah, they do some source water, because we have a handful of those data points that we analyze for iron and feel like things that can help.
I'm just wondering if there's
cause
something
issues.
else to test for it that reacts with chlorine that's causing.
Well,
your
we're gonna
leaks.
do some more testing this week. Justin's coming out to do some testing at the well.
How much more chlorine are we adding since the DNR mandated this, what was it, a couple of years ago or whatever?
So,
Or 20%, 25,
There-
10%?
the history of it is basically when Peter took over and we had that sanitary survey where the DNR wanted us to start doing this. We've slowly crept it up pretty much the entire time since then. Now, I wouldn't say that the complaints have really necessarily changed, but we went from they were only testing chlorine at the well house, and it was barely detectable. So that's going to show that there was 0 chlorine anywhere else. So that's why nobody noticed it, because there literally wasn't any. So coming from there, we've had complaints. I don't know if you'd say they've changed. It's probably gotten to different areas, but we ran at 0.3 for a while. We ran at 0.5 for a while. We ran at 0.8 for almost a year. We ran at 1 for another 6 months. And basically, we've been running at 1.8 now for the last better than a year. Now the EPA defined allowable concentration is 4. So I can have up to 4 anywhere in the system, so we're still less than half of what's allowable. But I wouldn't say concentrations, depending on where you're in the system, everybody hated it no matter what. Anywhere above 0 is bad, is literally what it comes down to.
How come other utilities aren't, maybe they are,
They are. I talked to
Again-
somebody who works for the water department, Peter Dam, and I asked him, like, you guys got the same stuff? And he's just like, yeah, it's nonstop.
so we go back to the DNR. The DNR mandate.
When did that come?
It was just that they
They didn't know they were sampling the wrong stuff.
didn't, the fact that we were sampling in our well houses and getting
'Cause
almost non-detectable was the problem.
You've always chlorinated and dechlorinated.
No.
Not
Just
just
chlorine.
chlorine.
You need,
Just-
you need residuals.
Oh, yeah, the distribution
So
system.
that the dead end, but they weren't seeing
But the big thing that MSA told us was the buildup on our pipes, right?
That was the first place to look, that was most reasonable.
So they were guessing.
Well, it's a cheap solution.
Because I go back to my concern, why are the ones where we now have used PVC water main, why are they the biggest complainers and they've got the newest stuff in place, you know, and they,
I mean, it still probably has to travel through the oldest cast iron to get to the PVC though, right?
correct, that it does.
Yeah.
But is it clinging on to that where there's nothing to cling on to in the PVC pipe? Is that, I'm trying to use logic in this thing, you know?
But I think biofilm still will attach to PVC. The thought process was, well, instead of doing, you know, maybe another chemical treatment point, it was maybe, let's just troubleshoot what we got, maybe we can improve it.
It stemmed from, we knew from the beginning that we weren't flushing enough to start with. So that was the first idea, is that, hey, let's at least verify that it's not coming from the distribution system. Because that's, point one, you gotta make sure your pipes are clean in the first place. So now we've done a whole bunch of flushing, you know, we've talked through it, we've verified, hey, the system's, we think the system is as clean as it needs to be. Maybe let's start looking for another reason.
What
So-
happens with the laterals when you do the flushing? Like, people are opening fixtures and letting it run through, right?
Not
No.
particularly,
It could catch someone flushing, I suppose, but generally you open everything up, you direct the flow out of the hydrant.
So the idea has been to like keep ramping up slowly so that it's giving it time to do its reaction, basically. When does it become time to start backing off and keep sampling? Because now that it's been activating for 3 years, can that residual make it farther on less?
And it has been, basically. So that was what we tried in December, coming back down to 1.4 from 1.8, and then we sparked the last round of complaints, so
Okay. And that's probably the break point too then, right?
that's.
But do you keep going past that 1.4 and you'd like say point, let's say 1? And would it get your residuals through dead ends? I don't know. I know it's guessing.
Is there any math for the break points as far as what the residual should be to be beyond the break point?
There's calculations that will calculate.
Well, getting back to the water tower again, I know public fire protection's got a big play on that, but what about lowering the level in the water tower that we don't have so much water in the water tower? I mean, we talk about, that's just a vessel, that's just a holding capsule. What about lowering the water? I mean, we can immediately fire up the wells if we do have a fire in town or whatever, but I know that all plays in, probably the DNR's probably got jurisdiction on that. too.
Storage, you need certain amount of storage.
That was one of the first things we did. Frankly, we let the tower go down to our state code mandated minimum, and then we get the wells turned on, so. We've explored all of the easily changeable set points. So,
But did you say that there's less chlorine in the tower than there is in the system?
routinely, yes. And that's a function of the tower being on the edge of town, because the wells turn on and they fill the system, but then the water that fills the tower is the water that already saw half the system.
Right, it's already gone through the system and now it's
So-
making its way up the tower.
Right, 'cause you gotta remember, there's a lot of volume just in the pipes on its way to the tower.
True.
So, we increased, we let the tower get more empty than it did before, and we also increased the swing on it, so you're filling it and you're draining it, trying to get fresh, a full swing out of it. But that hasn't particularly helped.
Have you tried cranking your feet right up and see what happens?
Well, frankly, everyone you talk to that's in water chemistry, that's the first thing that they will tell you, is that if you smell chlorine, turn it up.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking,
That's
just to see.
Any website you look at, that's what they will tell you, any professional, so that's why we're at 1.8.
That's like the shocking logic, right?
Isn't that silly?
No, but isn't that the terminology when you're?
Like a pool shock.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
right,
pool
right,
shocker.
right.
If you go into a pool and it smells like a pool, it's because they don't have enough chlorine in
Right,
their pool.
right.
So, that's quite literally the logic.
I don't know what to tell these people anymore. I've been buying time on this, hoping it's gonna, and I haven't been real promising with anybody. I've more or less tell them this didn't get this way overnight, and it's not gonna be fixed overnight or anything like that, but I don't know what the hell else to tell these people.
And-
I'm shocked that he did not send you that stuff, because this was pretty disturbing if you saw how it ate metal apart like this, and you know, those fins on all that stuff are either brass or white metal or something like that, and these things were like, I swear to God, it was an acid that was on this stuff. And I think these are just circulation pumps for potable water to push it the 3 stories up or whatever, like most of the hospitals have, or probably the jail has got. I'm not familiar with what they got.
I don't know, it depends on who you talk to and what's really happening, but I mean, there could be something like cavitation in the pump where the air is actually eating the pump, if there's air in the pump. It's not,
I mean, those are what, 18 years old? More than that.
The jail?
Yeah, I think it's just
Yeah,
more
no, it
information on
was
it.
being built at the same time we were building at school, so 2001. So we were over 20 years old.
so there's, not to play off, but there's 100 different reasons that could cause that.
Well, I said 2, I find it hard to believe that's just chlorine
Well,
that caused it.
Well, has the pump been in there for 20 years?
Were they,
No, they changed.
were they pulled before 3 years ago?
I don't know.
Or, were they halfway worn out then?
But this was something that they must have come across, and they asked about it, hey, what's causing this? And the people that supply those pumps and stuff, it looks like you got a high concentration of chlorine. And that's when they started testing on their own throughout the buildings, and that's when that don't tell me nothing. How many parts per million, is that high? I don't know, per million, that to me is a diluted figure, so I don't know, what it costs, but my wife is like you, Mac, she had sinus surgery and she can't smell, but she sure can pick that up on taste.
I didn't have surgery, and I had acid and chlorine and caustic pHing things over there and cleaning tanks, and my sniffer's gone, so is my taste buds.
But it's discouraging because, like I said, I never noticed before. I'm sure I'm noticing it now. And
I say we're following the DNR guidelines.
well, that's what I tell them.
That's my answer.
So it's
How necessary is chlorine in their drinking water?
very.
I don't know.
There's another one. I was going through our list of ordinances, and I found one that was on fluoridation. Alex sent me this one. And it says the Department of Public Works shall implement and execute a program for fluoridation of the municipal water supply.
What's that
Public
from?
Works?
That's from 1888, before we created a utility commission.
Well, it's stayed the same since.
Yeah, I don't know what the Public Works
Uh,
Committee would know about that, but
It would be interesting to probably get that updated to say what probably should,
shift it over to the utilities.
yeah, not that we want it, but.
And Alex, I know you're doing your best, but I know reaching out to this outfit is gonna help us.
Well, so ultimately, I think MSA brought up, Brad with MSA brought up some good points. Is we want, if we're at the point where we're gonna spend money at this, I think we should at least have some more data to say for sure why things are happening. Like I have that proposal that could you know, we can add phosphates to the water, but that's just a win to say, hey, this could help kind of thing. And we might spend $50,000 on something that was a best guess kind of thing.
Didn't we spend 13 grand or something like that for MSA to come up, to tell us to flush the lines?
Basically, yeah.
And didn't they follow up with it, like?
That was what prompted me talking to Brad the other day, was that they were following up to update that flushing study.
Cause, you know, 13 grand, and, yeah, open up your fire hydrants once in a while.
Well, there's
It was like-
a
it was like
difference,
20.
you
21,
close some
wasn't it?
valves
That
and
was pushing
open some
21
valves.
grand.
You don't, that was the system so that we didn't,
It's a directional flushing
Directional
program,
flow, so
we
that-
Yeah,
actually
but shouldn't they have
isolate
followed
lines.
up on it and say, you know?
They kinda have, but
Okay,
the next step is.
keep
where we're
following
at.
up.
And the recommendations in there were to do it in the spring and then the fall.
Well, and that was
too.
another thing that was mentioned is we could do the directional flushing twice a year. But it takes us a month to do it, you know, 2 people working 3 days a week at it, so it's not a quick and easy thing. So we did not do the directional flushing last fall. We did it in the spring at the first bit, and then we did traditional flushing in fall. But, you know, to the merit of the idea that, you know, flushing would help, you know, we went from flushing 300,000 gallons a year to over 2 million we flushed last year. So you can't say we didn't try.
And you got a lot of gunk out too, when I talked to the
Yeah,
operators,
yeah.
they said there was.
I mean, we had
lot of
some pictures and we got
Yeah.
stuff
material.
out, but,
You gotta believe some of that gunk gets up the laterals too, though.
oh, it certainly did.
And then what?
Half of it is we can't flush laterals.
Right, that's it just begs the question, pushes the gunk up the laterals and then gets hit with chlorine. It's right at that breaking point right as it comes out of the faucet.
So-
I think it come out.
So, I guess that's what I'm getting at, is we're pushing it into, we've tried everything, we gotta start paying somebody to tell us something, cause I'm pretty short on ideas from here, so.
I just was wondering if MSA could tell us some more.
Right, well, and that's their engineering, what do you call it? Justin is a
Yeah, he's a graduate engineer.
graduate student.
Yeah, graduate engineer, or graduate engineer 1, he's graduated
Right.
college, has his.
So he's gonna come out and help us take some tests and get some data on, you know, what they think the next places to look, and I've sent them loads and loads and loads of data on this already. So they've got everything I've got,
And this isn't under contract or anything? He's
no,
just
this
doing
is
we're
just
doing this.
strictly under the guise of providing a proposal on the next steps.
Okay.
So, hopefully for the next month's meeting, I'll have a proposal or a better idea on what to do next, because it's above my grade level at this point. We've tried as much as I know to try, so.
I think one thing maybe in the meantime you could do internally is just try and target a little bit higher in residuals. See what that does, if it is the break point phenomenon.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, to me, that seems like the easiest.
if everyone says go higher, just go higher.
Like, we're
Well,
getting
But you're the one who
steady
said that's the
complaints.
first thing you
I-
see everywhere,
Well-
and
Well,
if
the
it's
problem
allowed
is
up to
we're-
4 and you only have 1.
We are
It's a lot of
already
room.
the second highest residual of any utility I know. So I hate to say I need to go higher. I've only heard of one other utility that does more than I am. So I don't know that that's a reasonable.
So let's go the other way then. Go less, right? We've been doing,
The problem is I was less for,
but was it drastic
Over a
enough
year.
though? Cause what did you see, it went back down to 1.3, 1.4? Can you get residuals up at that end, just going sub 1 now that we've been doing it?
now that we've been here for that long. I don't know.
Boy.
And that might be what Brad comes up with.
Yeah,
too,
or wait and
so.
see what he says.
Data come, or the test results come back, but
What were your residuals when you went down?
It was such a short period, doesn't swing that fast.
Oh,
Yeah, what is the duration
So then it could have.
to see the
You won't,
impact?
you won't know a difference for a month. It's a big ship, they're not swinging something small.
Yeah, it's slow to respond. So if you need to correct, it's like, oh,
a lot of
shoot.
kinetics.
I just think logically, you're up to 1.8, right? At a duration of a year.
Basically.
You're at 1.4 now, you said?
We went back to 1.8 after all the complaints.
I think I'd bring it down, I'd let it ride for a month and see what happens. See if we get residuals. Or wait until sewer cracks.
Or wait till you get back from your back.
That's pretty much it, so. That's the plan for now.
Well,
Get
keep
some-
working at it.
Some more stuff.
You're doing something.
Yeah, you haven't given
We're
up.
not-
You're doing, you haven't given up,
Yeah.
Alex. I think you've
We're
been
not-
on this, you watched it, you've
We're
done a good job.
just kind of,
Track.
make changes and you kind of spin your wheels and kind of.
I'm gonna get off Facebook anyway, so.
Good.
Well, I mean, I
know
don't think
that.
getting off Facebook is the answer. You
No,
know,
I'm
like,
just
every
kidding.
now and then I'll hop on there. I mean, these people think that they're not doing anything, and that's not the case.
And Alex always answers on that.
Right, and he
On
does,
those
yeah.
posts, and you do a really good job of that too, explaining stuff. so.
Everyone thinks I'm poisoning them, but anyhow.
Good work, Alex.
Next action item, land use spare parts and tools. So,
approve the hiring of them?
no,
No?
cause that's, we gotta hear back from a second engineering firm
Right.
as to what, if they agree with that course of action. So, we have a quote, so Landia provided the mixers within the digester at the wastewater plant. Now, we were given the opportunity to, under the budget of the wastewater plant project, we can purchase spare parts and tools for the maintenance and repair of them in the future. So it's specialized tools for changing seals, basically like drain plugs, seals, different stuff that they anticipate us needing for in the next couple of years, just to keep these up and running. So we've kind of went back and forth. There's a high number, a low number. We kind of just took the middle number. But it's $5,838.81 that we could purchase directly ourselves and
And put back on the.
put back into the project. But it's all items that we would use in the future for maintaining these pumps and mixers, so. I certainly have a breakdown if anyone wants to see what the items are.
Was there, there were other items on there that weren't as high of cost? That at your meeting, didn't they approve the direct purchase of the parts and different items?
No. No, that was not a part of the first meeting. So that basically, I can't directly buy anything with this,
Is that just
purchase
the
amount.
limit? Right, the limit.
That's my spending limit, but then it was, you know, if I buy it, it's been approved through DNR already that they could pay for it, so. Through the project. So I'm here to ask for permission to buy these spare parts, tools, and service
Yeah.
items.
So, what is your pleasure?
Well, I'll make the motion to,
$1,000 in tools and
was it, how much was it, 58?
Does that include delivery, Alex?
it's not noted on here.
Might be a little more for just delivery, I think, unless it says it's included already.
It doesn't.
So it's just say plus freight.
Plus freight.
There you go, that'll work.
58, 38, 31.
Plus freight.
All right. Is there a second for that motion? Second by Dick. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Beyond that, some of you may have noticed, we got the new front door on the well house here. Hometown Glass installed that a couple weeks ago. They came and replaced the lock sets at the rest of the water department facilities as well to match the wastewater treatment plant key. Yeah, keeping Nick out. Vitek came to clean the wet wells at the wastewater plant on the 4th. We did receive confirmation back from the DNR that the service line inventory I spent so much time to submit in October was deemed acceptable to their standards, so that was appreciated. Troy flushed 14 hydrants last week for 200,000 gallons following complaints we've received, so just trying to freshen things up a little bit. Last week, we also had MSA's architects and engineers come through the wastewater plant to create our punch list items and go through and make sure everything is the way we were hoping it turned out. And we found quite a few, well, it was all minor stuff generally, but there's a lot of them.
I think it's pretty typical for the size of the punch list. I think the contractors get to a point where they just want to be told every single thing that they have to do to get the pretty bow at the end, so, which is where we're at.
Otherwise, Lori did bring up that you got an email from somewhere that they charge their customers for the commercial cross-connection inspections. So that's a service that we've just paid for, and the customers schedule to do these cross-connection inspections with HydroCorp is the firm that we've been using. And it sounds like most people around kind of use HydroCorp.
I would say majority of them,
And
Sound like?
there's, is it River Falls? Who was the? There's some municipality within WPPI, right? That is actually itemizing these inspections and billing them to customers. I don't know if that's something that is,
How much does this cost
we're
us?
paying $470 a month.
For all our customers or for?
They do.
They do like a dozen a month or something,
Yeah,
right? 8 of them.
I think they do like 50 to 60 a year. Is what we're paying the $400 and something a month for, so basically we could charge the customer, I don't know what it would come out to, but for
70 times 12, so here's $6,000.
yeah. So if it's $6,000 and there's 50 of them, that's what's that?
Some dollars.
Right, for each. It's an idea, somebody does it, we would have to go with a different service because HydroCorp couldn't break it out, but there are services you could go with.
Is there anything in your ordinance on responsibility for it?
So it would,
And one of the points that Alex had brought up with that is if we're charging them to do the test, and then there is issues, they have to pay for the repairs also, and right now, we don't charge for the test, but they do pay for their repairs or corrections.
yeah. And
need a PSC? These are approved, have to be approved through
Well, it's, the fact that we do them is PSC mandated, yes, but,
to turn around and bill, we
But-
would have to get that approved, right?
Well, that's the discussion.
that's the discussion here, is if we wanna pursue that or not.
There's an email group that, through WPPI, that you can ask other members of the utilities that, any questions, and that was one of them that came up about the cross connection and charging the customer to have it done for the commercial. And that was one of the questions is the PSC let you do that? And, from what I haven't gotten an answer, I haven't gotten an email that directly answered that, but most of them said that it didn't, the PSC didn't have a regulation on that. So you can if you want, and there were a couple that were charging.
I think the only blowback might be is, we're not charging customers now for that, and it's hard enough to get them to schedule these inspections. So if you move to, hey, we're making you get this inspection, and you're gonna have to pay for it, so schedule it now, please. Nobody's gonna
No, they're not gonna.
do it, You're gonna get so many people out of compliance just because they wouldn't schedule it, so. That would be my fear.
It isn't, it's not a terrible amount of money. For a service,
Well, and this
we're
is-
kind of providing a service.
Right, well, and this is like Gassner's shop, all these little, 2 gals and a guy, these places are little shops that still have to get this service done, but they'd be paying, some decent amount of money to get this inspection done, so.
And then Lori, you'd have to bill it out there.
Yep.
And there's a lot more
There'd be all
paperwork
kinds
behind
of
it.
administrative costs to that, keeping track
So I
of.
just figured I'd
Yeah.
say there's this option out there, but.
To me, it's just like, at this point, it's probably, if it was more than $6,000,
Sure.
then maybe we need to start thinking about, if it was $60,000, then yeah, then we have an issue, but at $6,000, I'm not sure we have an issue. I don't know what the other commissioners think, but that's kinda where I'm at. We're talking $100 a customer, till we do the billing and the paperwork and then scream at them to get it done and that and everything else,
When
we're
they
gonna
don't
have
pay, start
$100 in
getting
it.
more phone calls.
More headaches.
Your phone
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah, my phone doesn't work.
Yeah, we're gonna have more than $100
In chasing these people.
in chasing them around.
Yeah, no, so that's one thing we talked about bringing up, but otherwise, that's all I got for today.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Alex? Do you have any comments now?
No, sir.
Okay. Moving on. I don't have anything, which is good. Mr. Mayor?
Good too.
Oh.
Do you have any insight on, most of us got that email today about the road construction.
I was a little surprised to see it was coming this fast.
Yeah, considering I got an email on January 15th that it would be anticipated starting in May, and now we're starting in like 2 weeks.
I was more concerned, so this was prompted because I directly called R.G. Schmidt to say, hey, was just trying to get an idea, hey, when are you guys thinking of starting underground? He said March 17th. So I immediately called Jason, like, are you aware of this? What? No. I should probably call Keenest to verify. What?
Yeah.
You wanna start a project in 3 weeks and we don't even know about it?
Yeah, when you got people in charge.
Because I can tell you it's gonna put a big strain on me getting my stuff done.
The upside on it is we're not interrupting the downtown during their prime season, we could probably get the utilities and stuff backfilled by May, which is great, what have you, but I was kinda shocked too, and I thought, well, I don't know what kind of control we got over this, but I certainly didn't think they'd be starting, when they start the other part of the project, end of March, wasn't it?
They didn't start until April, but that's because they thought they had to wait.
Cause I reviewed the bid, there is no start time, determined in the bid, but there is a completion time.
Yeah.
The completion time is September.
Yeah.
Minus final payment and all that, but.
Well, and it's such a small project for RD Schmidt that they probably just wanna get in and get out.
Probably.
And sit on to the next full-size project.
But then you wanna follow up with the next phase of it so that people aren't putting up with the inconvenience for 6 months neither, also.
Yeah. I mean, March 17th, we definitely have a good chance of more snowfalls. and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah,
too.
we've had it in May when we had Depot Street tore up that time and whatever, and that's just, yeah. But like I said, at least, this is minimal utility infrastructure replacement here, so it's not, you know, like we're handling laterals and everything going up to the properties, that's behind us, but. Yeah, I'm sure they probably got their schedule set for the year too, so. I'd rather be at the beginning part of the schedule than at the end of the schedule, you know, we're fighting winter elements and stuff like that, but, yeah, we could get a snowfall or two yet.
Well, a 2-week notice is not adequate.
No, I agree with you there.
As long as the compaction's good and we don't end up on Center Street
Center
again
Street.
downtown.
Well,
Somebody's gotta be on site doing their job.
Is Enos gonna come in and do the road base right away? We'll find out on the
Sure don't
17th.
want another temporary patch if we don't have to do it.
It's just a trick that seems like every project.
All right. Any more, any old business? Any new business? If not, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Dave, second by Bart to adjourn. Is there any discussion at all? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?